Somewhere in the United States right now, there is a town where cars have been illegal since 1898. Not restricted by permit, not discouraged by policy, outright banned by law. And dozens more like it exist in plain sight, while most Americans go their whole lives without ever hearing their names. You have been lied to about what small-town America looks like. Every travel magazine, every retirement blog, every glossy real estate listing wants you to believe the whole country got flattened by strip malls and drive-through pharmacies. But what if the real version, the one quietly edited out of the story, is that entire towns just refused to modernize and somehow ended up living better than the places that did? We are talking about a town where locals still speak a dialect straight out of Shakespeare. A town that literally bought a dead Olympian and renamed itself in his honor. And an island where the loudest thing in traffic is a horse. Think you know the American small town? You do not. Financial advisors will not point you here. Real estate algorithms will not surface them. And travel influencers keep skipping them for whatever beach town has the newest wine bar. Subscribe right now because you will not find this list on any relocation website. Let us break it down. Number 10. Lindsborg, Kansas. There is a town on the Kansas plains where local police cars are painted with cartoon Swedish horses, and nobody there thinks that is even slightly weird. Welcome to Lindsborg, home of the Dala horse invasion. This town of about 3,700 people has painted, sculpted, and imported wooden Dala horses onto every surface that holds paint. There is a herd of 30 giant fiberglass ones scattered around town. Because at some point, the community collectively decided regular civic art was not Swedish enough. The numbers. Median home value ranges from about $148,000 up to $206,000. Median household income lands near $82,000. Cost of living runs roughly 21% below the national average. And violent crime is well below both the Kansas and national baselines. The town was founded by Swedish immigrants in 1869 and simply never assimilated. Bethany College anchors it. Folk art shops still import wooden horses straight from Sweden. And every other year, a full weekend festival called Svensk Hyllningsfest turns the town into cardamom bread and folk dancing. Here is the catch. This is the Kansas prairie. It is flat, windy, and hours from any actual city. When the wind picks up out here, it does not politely rustle the fields. It interrogates them. Comment yes or hard pass. And wait until you meet the Corn Belt town named after a Muslim freedom fighter. Number 9. Elkader, Iowa. There is a town in the middle of Iowa cornfields named after a 19th century Algerian Muslim freedom fighter. And the founders were not being ironic. Elkader was named in 1846 after the Emir Abd el-Kader, an Arab leader who resisted French colonial rule in North Africa. The founders admired his cause so much they slapped his name on their settlement, making Elkader the only town in the United States named after a Muslim Arab leader. There is a sister city bond with Mascara, Algeria, and an Algerian-American restaurant on Main Street called Shara's serving burek in the middle of Iowa. The data. Median home value sits around $156,000. Median household income runs about $63,000. Cost of living lands 18% below the national average. Violent crime in the surrounding county runs about 79% under the national baseline. Elkader feels frozen because it is a remote county seat farming town that never had a growth spurt. The main street is intact. The Elkader Opera House still hosts shows. And the largest limestone Keystone Bridge west of the Mississippi still arches over the Turkey River. Now the downside. Elkader recorded the coldest temperature in Iowa history in 1996, 47 degrees below zero, no wind chill added. In winter, this town does not ask if you own the right coat. It audits your entire closet and charges a spiritual tax. Like this video, if you learned something no history class ever mentioned. Next, a town preserved with a building technique almost nobody else in America ever used. Number 8. St. Genevieve, Missouri. There is a town in Missouri where the houses are literally built with logs stood upright in the ground. A technique so rare it barely exists anywhere else in North America. Meet St. Genevieve, the first organized European settlement west of the Mississippi River, founded around 1750 by French colonists. It holds the largest collection of French colonial vertical log architecture on the continent, including the Bolduc House from around 1785, where the logs are planted in the earth like fence posts. In 2020, the whole downtown was designated the 422nd unit of the National Park System. The numbers. Median home value ranges from $213,000 up to $262,000. Median household income runs around $77,000. Cost of living lands close to the Missouri average. Crime runs about 47% below the national baseline. Here is what makes it frozen. Roughly 3/4 of the buildings standing in St. Genevieve in 1832 are still standing today. That is a superpower. The 1876 Catholic Church has a 193-foot steeple, visible from anywhere in town. This place did not chase modernization, it politely declined and went back to making wine. But there is a trade-off, and it is called quiet. The biggest employer in town is a lime processing plant. Read that sentence again. Nightlife means church bells at 9. If you crave stimulation, St. Genevieve will hand you a rocking chair, a book about colonial windows, and expect you to be delighted. Subscribe if you have ever wondered whether your town feels soulless because it never had one to preserve. Next, a Texas town where the biggest attraction is a set of lights nobody can explain. Number 7, Marfa, Texas. There's a town in the West Texas desert where unexplained lights float over the horizon at night. And 30 miles down the road sits a permanent fake Prada boutique in the middle of nowhere. Both are correct. Welcome to Marfa. Population somewhere between 1,700 and 2,000, one blinking traffic light, and cultural gravity completely out of proportion with its size. The Marfa mystery lights have drifted over the desert for more than a century, unexplained by science and unbothered by explanation. And out in the desert stands Prada Marfa, an art installation that looks exactly like a luxury handbag boutique but is permanently locked and slowly weathering into the sagebrush. The data gets weird because the population is tiny. Median home value ranges from about $195,000 up to $290,000. Median household income swings from $30,000 to $62,000 depending on the source. Overall crime runs about 77% under the national baseline. Marfa feels frozen because it was a ranching town that emptied out mid-century. Then, in the 1970s, minimalist artist Donald Judd arrived, bought a former army fort, and filled the empty buildings with sculpture. The Hotel Paisano, where the cast of the film Giant stayed, still runs. And Judd's concrete installations still sit exactly where he put them 50 years ago. Now the downside. The nearest commercial airport is 3 hours away. You either fly into El Paso and start driving, keep driving, then drive a little more, or you fly into Midland and immediately reassess your relationship with time itself. Hit the like button if you have ever driven 3 hours to see something completely unexplained. Next up, a working Greek fishing village most people have no idea is inside Florida. Number 6, Tarpon Springs, Florida. There is a town on the Gulf Coast where Greek sponge divers still work the water in traditional rubber suits, and the town speaks more Greek than any other city in the United States. Say hello to Tarpon Springs. More than 10% of residents claim Greek ancestry, the highest of any American city, and roughly 7% report speaking Greek at home. The sponge docks are a working waterfront where professional divers still harvest natural sea sponges the way their grandfathers did. Every January, young men jump into Spring Bayou to retrieve a cross tossed in by the Greek Orthodox Archbishop. The numbers. Median home value ranges from $390,000 up to $432,000. Median household income runs around $68,000. Cost of living hovers right at the national average. And crime runs about 15% below the national baseline. Tarpon Springs feels frozen because of 1938, the year a red tide devastated the sponge beds and nearly killed the industry. Most communities would have moved on. This one refused. The Greek community stayed, kept the Sponge Exchange building from 1907, kept St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Cathedral, and turned the waterfront into a living time capsule. Picture this, you walk down Dodecanese Boulevard in late afternoon. Sponges the size of basketballs are drying on racks. The air smells like grilled octopus, lemon, and salt. Bouzouki music drifts from an open window. And an old fisherman is arguing with another old fisherman about something that happened in 1972. Now the trade-off. This is Florida. It gets around 53 inches of rain a year, and summer feels like you are wearing the weather. Hurricane season is a regular guest. Comment your favorite Mediterranean food. Coming up, a Virginia island where the summer's main event is a pony swim, literally. Number 5, Chincoteague, Virginia. There is a small island town on the Virginia coast where every year, actual wild ponies swim across the channel and a fire company sells them at auction. This has been happening for about a century, and it is arguably the strangest civic tradition in America. Welcome to Chincoteague. Population around 3,300. Every last Wednesday of July, so-called saltwater cowboys drive a herd of wild ponies from Assateague Island across the channel to Chincoteague. The foals are auctioned to benefit the volunteer fire department, and it has been a fundraiser since the 1920s. The tradition was made famous by the 1947 book Misty of Chincoteague, and at the 2,500th anniversary swim, one foal reportedly sold for $100,000. The stats. Median home value ranges from $329,000 up to $371,000. Median household income runs around $62,900. Poverty rate near 10%. Cost of living lands about 17% below the national average. And Accomack County offers active senior real estate tax relief for lower-income residents. Chincoteague feels frozen because it is genuinely an island. One long causeway in and out. Main Street is small clapboard buildings, family-owned bait shops, and a movie theater still marquee-lit like it is 1962. Picture this. Last Wednesday of July at low tide, salt marsh air, the smell of horses and Old Bay, and a crowd lined up at the edge of the channel. Then a splash, dozens of ponies cutting through the water like they own it, kids on shoulders, grandparents crying a little. An announcer over a scratchy loudspeaker calling names of horses like, "It is small town Little League." Now the downside. For 51 weeks a year, this town is dead quiet. The 1 week the ponies swim, 40,000 people descend, and the entire island becomes a slow-motion parking lot. Share this with the friend who cried when they read Misty in 3rd grade. You know who I mean. Next, an island where locals still speak a dialect from the pirate era. Number 4, Ocracoke, North Carolina. There is an island on the Outer Banks where locals speak a dialect so old it preserves words and pronunciations from Shakespeare's England, and linguists have been studying it for decades. Meet Ocracoke, population around 800 year-round residents, reachable only by ferry, plane, or private boat. The islanders speak what is called the Ocracoke brogue, or Hoy-Toyder, a dialect so isolated that Dr. Walt Wolfram, a distinguished professor at North Carolina State University, has called it, quote, the only American dialect not identified as American. Locals call outsiders dingbatters. The pirate Blackbeard used this island as a hideout in the early 1700s. And every year, fewer young islanders speak the brogue fluently, meaning the dialect is quietly disappearing while most Americans have no idea it exists. The data. Median home value ranges from $380,000 up to $561,000. About 16.5% of families here live below the poverty line. Town-level crime data is essentially unavailable, but Hyde County crime is very low. Ocracoke feels frozen because of pure geography. No bridge, no scheduled flights, a ferry ride measured in hours. That isolation preserved the dialect, the historic village, the 1823 lighthouse, which is the oldest still operating in North Carolina, and even the single-lane sand paths only recently paved. This is not preservation by ordinance, it is preservation by inconvenience. Picture this. You step off the ferry after 2.5 hours on the water. Your phone signal is polite but suspicious. You walk down a crushed oyster shell path past clapboard cottages leaning at ages older than your grandparents. Somewhere behind a screen door, an old fisherman says the word mummocked, meaning bothered or exhausted, in continuous use in that spot since roughly the time of King James. Now the trade-off. You cannot drive here. Groceries are a ferry ride. Winter nor'easters isolate the population for days at a time. Hurricanes have swallowed parts of the island in recent years, most memorably Dorian in 2019. Like this video, if the idea of hearing Shakespeare-era English coming out of a bait shop delights you. Coming up in the top 3, a California town so beautifully preserved it looks like the cast of a Victorian romance forgot to leave. Number 3, Ferndale, California. There is a town on the far northern California coast where the entire downtown is made of ornate Victorian mansions built by dairy farmers, and locals call them butterfat palaces. That is a real nickname. That is a real town. Welcome to Ferndale. Population about 1,400, hidden on California's remote Lost Coast, roughly 260 miles north of San Francisco. The whole downtown is on the National Register of Historic Places. Gothic Revival, Italianate, and Queen Anne mansions line Main Street. And here is the twist. Ferndale was the first town in California to have milk delivery trucks, and it is the actual birthplace of powdered milk. Cows funded a Victorian dream village on the Pacific coast, and nobody talks about it enough. The numbers. Median home value ranges from about $418,000 up to $551,000, depending on which source you trust. Median household income runs around $60,000 to $65,000. Cost of living lands roughly 8% above the national average, which is genuinely cheap for coastal California. Violent crime lands around 16 and property crime around 23 per 1,000 residents, both under the national averages. Ferndale feels frozen because of accidental preservation. In the 1800s, dairy fortunes funded the ornate downtown. Then the local rivers silted up, ports at Humboldt Bay took over regional shipping, and Ferndale's economy stalled around 1890. But instead of tearing down the old buildings for something new, the town simply kept them, painted them, and maintained them. Today, the theater marquee still glows on Main Street. Picture this. It is 6 in the evening, in late September. Golden hour is pouring down Main Street. The Victorian trim on every building is catching the light like it was designed for exactly this moment, which it was. The air smells like dairy pasture, coastal fog, and the faint sweetness of a bakery closing for the day. A neon marquee flickers on. Someone rides a bicycle past you, not performing wholesomeness, just going home. And you realize, for 1 second, you are inside a photograph that has not aged in 130 years. Now the honest downside. Ferndale gets about 43 inches of rain a year. That is not a suggestion, that is a lifestyle. The grass is always green because it is always damp. The town is a 5-hour drive from San Francisco on a 2-lane road. So a spontaneous night out is not exactly the local pastime. Subscribe because the next 2 entries are the wildest stories on this list. And one involves a small town buying an entire dead person to save itself. Not joking. Number 2, Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. There is a town in the Pocono Mountains that actually bought a dead Olympian, renamed itself in his honor, and built him a mausoleum, even though the athlete never once set foot there in his life. This is one of the strangest civic decisions in American history, and the town is still living inside it. Here is the story. In 1954, two struggling former coal towns called Mauch Chunk and East Mauch Chunk were in economic freefall. A local newspaper ran a citizen fundraising campaign called Nickel a Week to save the community. Then Jim Thorpe's widow reached a deal with the towns. The Native American Olympic champion's remains would be moved there. The towns would merge, rename themselves after him, and build him a roadside mausoleum. His sons and the Sac and Fox Nations sued in 2010 to bring him home. The Third Circuit Court ruled against them in 2014. The Supreme Court declined the case in 2015, and Jim Thorpe stays in Jim Thorpe forever. The data: median home value runs about $177,000 up to $234,000. Median per capita income lands around $34,000. Poverty rate is around 7.5%. Cost of living runs about 5% under the national average, and crime lands well below both the Pennsylvania and national averages. Jim Thorpe feels frozen because it never got a modern makeover. The Victorian Broadway streetscape is intact. Bear Mountain looms over the town like a movie backdrop. The Asa Packer Mansion still sits on the hill, and the Lehigh Gorge Scenic Railway still runs trains out of the restored old station. Picture this: early October. The gorge is on fire with leaves. Church bells ring from a steeple built in 1869. The courthouse tower looks down on Broadway. A steam train whistle echoes off the mountain walls. And you catch yourself standing outside the roadside mausoleum of a man who never lived here in life, thinking that in a strange way, this town earned him. They needed each other, and now they are stuck together, whether the family wanted it or not. Now, the trade-off, and it is a moral one as much as a practical one. This town is named after a man who was traded like a commodity, whose family fought for years to bring him home, and who lost. Every visitor buying a coffee here participates in the aftermath of that decision. On the practical side, parking is a challenge because the whole town is jammed into a gorge, and winters are icy in the mountains. Comment your take. Should the town have kept the name? And subscribe, because our number 1 is the strangest place on this list, and yes, it is the town where cars have been illegal for over 125 years. Number 1, Mackinac Island, Michigan. Cars have been banned on Mackinac Island since 1898, and the ban has never been lifted. Not for tourists, not for residents, not for emergencies unless it is an actual crisis. This is the strictest, weirdest, longest-running transportation policy in the United States, and it has quietly built one of the most preserved places in the country. Meet Mackinac Island, a small island in Lake Huron, roughly 580 people year-round, up to 15,000 daily visitors in peak season. In 1898, the village council formally banned so-called horseless carriages after horses got spooked by an early automobile. The state of Michigan codified the ban into law in 1960. And Highway M-185, the 8-mile road that loops the entire island, is the only state highway in the United States where cars are prohibited. You get around by horse-drawn carriage, by bicycle, or on foot. The numbers: median home value ranges from about $370,000 up to nearly $500,000. Cost of living runs roughly 19% above the national average. Median household income is around $79,500. Crime statistics are heavily distorted by the tourist-to-resident ratio, but resident experience crime is genuinely low. Mackinac Island feels frozen because it literally is. The entire island is a National Historic Landmark District designated in 1960. The Grand Hotel, built in 1887, still runs like it is the Gilded Age, complete with a dress code after 6 in the evening. The main street is Victorian brick storefronts, fudge shops that have been in the same families for generations, and a working ferry system that shuts down when the bay freezes. Picture this: you step off the morning ferry. Immediately, you notice a sound you did not realize you missed. There are no engines, no horns, no revving. Just wind off the lake, the clop of hooves, and the distant clang of a bicycle bell. The main street smells like fudge, horses, and lake water in that exact order. A carriage rolls past, pulling a family of tourists. A local rides by on a bike carrying a bag of groceries. And it hits you that this is not a theme park. Nobody is in costume. This is just how the island lives. This is Tuesday. Now, the honest trade-off: winter on Mackinac Island is a different world. The lake freezes, ferries stop running. The only way off the island is by small plane, or across the ice by snowmobile once the ice bridge forms. Most of the roughly 600 working horses are shipped to the mainland to winter on farms. Groceries can get expensive. And if you have a medical emergency in a blizzard, that is a serious problem. But here is the thing: nobody who moves to Mackinac Island seems to leave. Once you have spent a year without engine noise, once you have watched a lake freeze and thaw, going back to the mainland feels louder, uglier, and dumber. Mackinac Island did not get stuck in the past. It just decided the past had a few things worth keeping. Smash the like button if you have ever wanted to live somewhere that made one bold choice a century ago and refused to back down. And subscribe, because our next video is going to blow this one out of the water. So here is the reframe. We are trained to think progress means bigger, faster, and newer. But look at what these 10 towns share. Cheaper cost of living, lower crime, preserved architecture worth more than the plywood boxes going up in every suburb, and a sense of community most modern places are trying to buy back through festivals and lawn signs. Sometimes progress is a town that hit pause and figured out how to keep the good stuff. Hit that like button if this list surprised you, because it helps the algorithm surface videos about places nobody else is talking about. Subscribe because the next video exposes American towns doing something even weirder. And share this with the one friend in your life who keeps saying they want to escape their zip code. Consider this their sign. Stay curious. Stay skeptical of everything the mainstream tells you about America. And whatever you do, stop pretending the newest place is automatically the best one.